Hello, everyone. You're very welcome to our information session today on the Graduate Certificate and Graduate Diploma in Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. My name is Una Grace. I'm Postgraduate Executive Administrator here in the Faculty of Arts, Humanities and Social Sciences. Just to note, we are recording the session there for anyone attending there in the attendee group, and we will also be taking questions at the end of this webinar in the Q&A session from attendees, and we'll unmute your mics as well. So please feel free to ask any questions to our faculty here and also to our alumni panelists as well. So just to note the agenda for this webinar today, my colleague, Dr. Catherine O'Sullivan, who's Course Director for the Certificate and Diploma in Equality, Diversity and Inclusion, will give an overview of the programme and the content, and then we'll have an alumni panel discussion for about 20 minutes, and then we'll take Q&A at the end of the session as well. So I suppose firstly I'll hand you over to Catherine there. Catherine, you might just introduce yourself quickly and just give us an overview of the programmes, and I think you're going to share a PowerPoint there as well.
Perfect. Hello, everyone. So my name is Dr. Catherine O'Sullivan, and I'm a lecturer here in the law school. So I've just taken over the course directorship of the programme. And while the course directorship is with the law school, it's an interdisciplinary programme. So you have lots of different lecturers from lots of different departments. So what I'll do is to get you going, we'll look at our PowerPoint. Just 1 second. I think I have it there. Yep. So, hope that works. Did that work? It did not work. Okay, sorry.
It's working there now. If you just want to minimize your, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, so I'll give you a quick overview of the programme, and then the content and the structure of the programme. We'll talk a little bit about the modules that are on it. Then towards the end, we'll look at the entry requirements, and you'll have further contact details then on the last slide if you have any other questions. So it's, as I said, it's an interdisciplinary programme. So you are getting input from experts in lots of different fields. If you're doing the certificate version of the program, which is 1 year, you take a law modules, and you take a module from the modern languages and applied linguistics side of the house here in UL. If you go on to do the diploma, then you're doing more law, a bit of public administration, and a bit of psychology as well. So you're getting kind of a feel of lots of different, very different, I suppose, in some ways, modules across the time that you're doing it. So looking at the certificate, which is what you start at doing a graduate certificate. So it's a 1 year part-time program that is delivered completely online. So there is no need to be on campus if people obviously are living, within the region. Everyone is entitled and well, would benefit from, visiting campus, visiting the library and whatnot, but it's not necessary by any means. So it's all delivered online. And you do 4 modules. So you do 2 modules in the autumn and 2 modules in the spring. And at the end of the year, you have 30 credits. So that's a level 9 qualification that you would get. So the modules that you do would be, the first one in the autumn is a labour law type module, and the second is languages. We'll look at each of them again in a second individually. And then in the spring, you're doing human rights module, and you're doing a kind of a quirky kind of a module that's called equality in practice. So as I say, we'll talk about all the modules again in a second. But then if you go on to the second year of you do a second year following up on your certificate, you can get a graduate diploma. So that would be over 2 years. So you've had done your 1 year. So now this is your second year. Again, it's part-time. Again, it's all delivered online. And in total, between your first year and your second year, you would end up doing 7 modules. So you'd be doing the same 4 as you would have done, to get your certificate. And then in the second year, you'd only be doing 3 modules. So you'd have a little bit less of a workload, I suppose, in the second year in order to get the diploma. And by doing the 2 years, you end up with 60 credits. So you end up, as I say, with the level 9 graduate diploma. So if we look then, that's how it lays out for the graduate diploma. So you have your autumn, you do law and justice. That would be your module in the first semester. And then in the spring, you do collaborative governance and leadership. And then the second module you'll be doing will be intercultural competence. So that would be the year 2, we'll say. The year 1 will be the same as for the graduate certificate. So when you're applying, you have to specify if you want to just go for the 1-year graduate certificate or if you want to do the 2-year graduate diploma. And again, you have to supply a supporting statement when you're making your application. And again, it would be good to specify there which it is that you're intending on doing. I mean, if you start doing the graduate certificate, you can, progress to do the diploma afterwards, but it's just better and easier for everyone concerned if you can kind of make a plan at the start, whether you want to do it the 1 year or the 2 years, and then set it out in your supporting statement, which I'll talk about again in a second. So if we go back to the actual modules you'll be doing, so we said that the first module that you'll be doing in the autumn semester would be equality and diversity in the workplace. So as you can see there on the slides, the aim of that module is to kind of introduce you to contemporary issues in workplace equality and diversity and maybe the legal duties of employers. You're talking about, there will be a bit of looking at the Irish legal system because maybe you might not have had any exposure to the study of law beforehand. So the Irish legal system would have to be explained to you in order to allow you then to understand, the legal duties that might be on people. And then Irish employment law, I mean, that also would bring in, the legislation that would ground the equality provisions and diversity. So employment equality legislation, Irish employment law, the Irish legal system, you'd be gently taken through, we'll say, all of those areas, because it would be done on the basis that you wouldn't know anything about the legal system when you're starting off with that. And it would, as well as introducing you to the law and how the legal system works, it would then show you how equality kind of permeates the whole employment cycle. So from the very beginning to the very end. And then also, I suppose it would be important to also look at the legal duties on organizations to promote EDI and the issues related to that and what those duties are. So the whole kind of picture from the employee's perspective, from the employer's perspective, and introduce you to all the legislation that is involved and the cases and the whole picture. So it's an online module. It's worth 6 credits and it's delivered by the School of Law. And I think Eddie, who teaches it, is on this webinar as well. So if you have any questions on that module, he's your man. Then the second module is the language and inclusion in organizations. And I suppose that module is more about learning about language ideologies. There would be, why language matters or when it matters. They'll be looking at the politics around language, I suppose, and political correctness will be a part of it, linguistic diversity, the different interpretations of language, and how language can play a really big role in either perpetuating exclusion or promoting inclusion. And that's, that's a fairly it's a big thing, the role of language. So that again, like all the modules, it's an online module, it's worth 9 credits, and that will be delivered by an expert from the School of Modern Languages and Applied Linguistics. So they're both spring, they're both autumn modules. And then in the spring, you will be looking at postgraduate human rights law online. And so the aim of that module then is to provide students with an understanding of the workings and the jurisprudence of the European Convention on Human Rights. And And all that involves, again, an online module, 9 credits, and it's delivered by the School of Law. And then your last module in year 1 is the module Equality in Practice. And so the aim of that module is to introduce students to practical issues that can happen when you're trying to advance equality, diversity, and inclusion, and the impact that they might have. And how that module typically works is looking at case studies. So it gives students the opportunity to maybe interact with leaders who have championed change in their professional context, and like learn from their experience. So again, it's all delivered online. You have your 6 credits, and because it's case studies, while it's delivered by the School of Law, there will be a collaboration with other departments to tease out maybe some of those case studies that will be used. Then if you go on to do the diploma, so in the second year, you only have 1 module in the autumn, if I remember correctly. So that's the Law and Justice module. So that's looking at legal theory and philosophy, so long as they, or so much as they relate to the ideas of justice and equality. Again, online, it's worth 9 credits and it's delivered by the School of Law. Then in the spring, you have 2 modules. So you've got collaborative governance and leadership, which is delivered by the Department of Politics and Public Administration here in UL. And that's looking at themes of collaborative governance and leadership in the context of public admin and beyond. And it's worth, again, the 9 credits delivered online. And your very last module would be intercultural competence delivered by the Department of Psychology. So that would be focusing on the knowledge and skills needed to manage situations where you have cultural differences and where maybe those differences are seen in some situations as being barriers to successful work, or barriers to integration or interpersonal skills or relationships. Again, an online module, and it's worth 12 credits. The entry requirements are that you must normally have a first or second class level 8 degree, honours degree, or relevant other experience, prior learning maybe that could be recognised. If that's the case, you just need to put a little letter together to explain what your prior learning was, in order to get it recognised as equivalent to a degree. And if anybody has any questions, I can talk about that a little bit later on. If English isn't your first language, you have to meet the English language requirements. And the program webpage tells you what you need to upload with your application. So you always have to have a supporting statement explaining why you want to do the program and what your interest kind of in it is, what brings you to it. You have to have your birth cert, qualification, transcripts if you're relying on the degree that you already have, or as I say, a statement of what your recognised prior learning is. For further contact details, you can email me or you can get more information on the programme webpage. Now, I think that's me, Una.
That's
So
great,
I'll go
Catherine.
back to you.
Thanks so much for that. It's great to get the detail on the modules and to get further insight into the program, the operation of the program as well. So now we'll move on to our alumni panel and current student discussion part of this webinar today. So I'll introduce my panel first of all. I believe Ethna is going to be off camera. She's on the move today, so she won't be able to appear on camera, but she will be there via sound anyway. So just to introduce our panelists there, we have James Groom, who is a current student studying on the certificate in Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. And he was with us in the 90s here in UL, and he's returned to continue his student journey in UL. He's previously completed an MA in History of Family, and he's also did French language courses as well. And as I've said previously, he's doing the certificate at the moment in Equality, Diversity and Inclusion. So I think we're trying to hold on to you at this stage, James, with all the different courses we're offering and everything else. So in his work life, James works with international protection applicant families to help them navigate their way through Irish society within the IPAS system. So he provides support to this community through the provision of proper accommodations, health, legal, education and work training information. inclusion. And within his work, he aims to foster a culture of inclusivity and respect that creates a safe environment for residents. So next we have Karen Ronan. She's a general manager of the Shannon Region Conference and Sports Bureau, and she has a wealth of experience, over 30 years experience in the tourism industry in Ireland and internationally. She's a regional ambassador, a member of Sight Ireland, and is a certified incentive specialist. And in 2023, Karen was voted president of Network Limerick, having served as VP and awards coordinator previously. And this year she's joined the National Executive of Network Ireland as branch support and EDI. And she's a keen interest in sustainable tourism and events that drive legacy and impact, as well as embedding EDI practice into all aspects of the roles that she covers, the multifaceted roles that she covers. So Suzanne Maher holds a BSc in Construction Management and an MSc in Human Resources Management, and is a graduate of the Graduate Diploma in Equality, Diversity and Inclusion here at UL as well. And she's over 20 years experience working in the construction industry and more, excuse me, and more recently in the further education and lifelong learning sector. And Suzanne has a particular interest in workplace inclusion and universal design for learning, where her master's dissertation focused on this area with the thesis entitled Disability and the Workplace, Employers' Attitudes and Experiences of Workers with a Disability. And finally, we have Ethna. So I know you can't see Ethna, but she is on the call here with us. And Ethna is a commercial leader focusing on building, managing and developing commercial organizations, where she's over 20 years experience in a broad spectrum of environments, including financial services, manufacturing, medical device manufacturing, business process outsourcing, with a particular focus on tech and gaming clients. And in 2022, Ethna started her own company focusing on supporting startup and scale-up companies with services industry, including strategy development, organization design and development, and focusing especially on the commercial revenue generating sides of their business. And she also supports companies through change management programs as well. And she's also mentored to several people, both professionally and in her personal time, and her coaching and mentoring work led her to look at inclusion and representation in teams. And that was her main motivation to pursue the Equality, Diversity and Inclusion programme, the diploma in the University of Limerick here as well. So with the introductions out of the way, I just want to thank you first of all for taking the time to join us on this lovely day, this lovely sunny day, and to give us your insights, both from a current student perspective and also an alumni perspective as well. And just to disclose as well, I've done the diploma as well, so I can attest to the quality and the content of the programme and the benefits you get from completing the programme as well. So I suppose I'll firstly start off with yourself, Suzanne, one of my former classmates, and Karen as well, actually was in our third group as well. So it's lovely to see you again, actually. But can I ask you why you decided to pursue this program and a postgrad at UL? Just what your motivation was. Suzanne, we might start with you first of all.
Sure. Hi, everyone. So thanks, Una, for the opportunity to join today. So I suppose I completed my master's in UL, and I had a really, really enjoyable time there, and I found it, great learning, and there was a great diversity of students within my group as well in the master's. So as you mentioned there, my dissertation was based on employers' attitudes to disability. So when I saw this course, it kind of naturally linked into that whole area for me of study, and I felt that I wanted to, I suppose, just broaden and test myself and broaden my knowledge as well. So, and also the fact that it was online, that was a really, I guess, really advantageous for me. It meant that I didn't have to travel, and particularly that the lectures were pre-recorded. It meant that you could work around your own schedule. And that was they were kind of some of the reasons, I guess, why I chose UL, and in particular this course.
Aaron, do you have anything to add to Suzanne there?
Very similar reasons, I suppose. Just to reiterate, the flexibility is what's key, particularly if you're working, and we all have busy lives outside of work as well. I did 2 postgrads back to back during COVID, management practice, and it was during the management practice course that I was hearing more and more about EDI and people having to embed DEI policy into organizations. And it really started to kind of switch on my thinking. And when I saw the opportunity around postgraduate certificate, I knew it was a chance for me, I suppose, to to take a deep dive into the whole area. And I think we're probably a little bit ahead of our times, because now it's almost an integral part of my job, and I had never actually foreseen that. So I think in that sense, it was a great move on my part to actually engage with the program when I did.
And absolutely, and I'd say that even, you know, even in your whatever about your work life, your personal life as well, actually, it seems there seems to be a lot more of those EDI topics being discussed as well. So it's great to have that kind of background knowledge and that learning as well, not just in a professional sense, but also in a personal sense as well. So James, as a current student, currently engaging in the content in the program, what was your motivation? I know you've kind of done a few different programs in UL, but I suppose, you know, what was your motivation or trying to find the word, you know, desire to do this program, why UL as well?
Well, obviously I was in UL in the early 90s, but I came back in about 2020 and to brush up on my French, because day to day I was dealing with a lot of Francophone immigrants, and my French language was a help to me. So I got back into UL, and then I noticed some other courses. I did a genealogical methods course, and that was very enjoyable, but it was personal to me. And I continued in it with the Masters in Arts and Family History of Family, which is also personal to me. And this time I decided I was really enjoying the education and the reskilling, and I wanted to do something with my career. And I found this was an excellent fit, and has proved to be super. The modules I'm taking are on a daily basis are on the ground. I can see, you know, how it can help me in what I'm doing day to day, and it's very the module in inequality in practice, like writing an essay at the moment on hate crime and hate speech. I mean, you can't get more current than that. Like it's literally, you know, up to date. Like it's so up to date, and I mean, just in particular the lecture on social exclusion, the topic was very enjoyable, and it opened my eyes to, you know, bias, inequalities, prejudices, and of course, what's the word I'm looking for? Privilege. You know, which it's the whole course has been just very enjoyable for me.
Absolutely, and it definitely highlights certain areas where we might have privilege in our own lives, and you know, and being aware of those biases and that kind of learning as well is very useful within this program as well. Ethna, do you have anything else to add there to what the others have said there on your motivation for doing the program?
So my motivation, I would say the actual topic of the program was a driver before UL, right? So I have worked, as you said, in a number of different industries, and I would have started out in manufacturing, and at a very simplistic level have been the only woman in the room for quite a lot of the time. What I didn't expect is, as I moved into tech and gaming, and the further up the ladder you went, the fewer women and other people were represented. It was a very clear demographic there. So that drove me to start coaching, right? And it really mattered to me, I guess, to have representation in the room, a broad representation, I think. And I think companies at some level have the will and the want, but they don't know how to do it, right? And I think it feels like such a huge task and such a large hill to climb that they don't know where to start. And you know, for me, I would be aware of my own biases in terms of I've always focused on having female representation in the room, which is only a very small element of it, right? So I suppose the first thing that drove me is a lot of my work is supporting companies that are early stage. They're planning to build their team and to try and get diversity and inclusion on the agenda from the very early days, you know, that it becomes part of how they do it. And it's easier with those companies than with big companies. And beyond that then, so I knew I wanted to do it, and I set myself, I suppose, a target of having something by last September, and then I found UL. I would echo what some of the other people have said. The online is great. I would definitely have maybe preferred if it was hybrid, to be perfectly honest, because I think there's a lot of energy when you engage, and we do have clinics and unfortunately they don't work for me time-wise, but I think there's a lot of goodwill within the group. There's a lot of diverse backgrounds, even within our small group. And the WhatsApp group is a great support, but it's just been, I think it's a very necessary skill set for everyone to have, and I think it's shown by how many of us are the different backgrounds on the course. So for me, it was course first and where I was doing it second, really.
Yeah, I think it's reflective of the group we had, Suzanne and Karen. We had quite a diverse group as well. We had people from the education sector, people from the kind of more corporate sector, civil society, NGOs, that sort of thing. So there was a wide range and diverse range of people that were taking the program, which was great to see. And you did really learn from each other, actually, I found as well, to your point, Etna, around WhatsApp groups and that peer-to-peer kind of learning as well. It's a great benefit of the program as well, I have to say. So just in terms of what you enjoyed most about the program, I might go to Suzanne and Karen first as people who've completed the programs, and I'll move on to the current students as well. But just in terms of the modules that you enjoyed most personally, can you pinpoint anything that you felt was really beneficial for your own work and career and progression and that sort of thing? Karen, do you want to start first?
Yeah, I can jump in.
Yeah.
I suppose I loved the fact that there was so much of it embedded in law. So you really got a kind of a good understanding of the legal basis, which in turn showed me, because you'd be thinking, sure, God, she works in tourism. What does she need any of this for? But as part of not just my day role, but all the voluntary boards I sit on, it's become more and more apparent that it's not enough just to have a strategy or a policy. When you understand the law behind it, and even things like the language and linguistics, as we took those on board as well, you really understand that it's putting it into practice that's most important. And I suppose that's the real takeaway that I've adapted to my work life and from a voluntary capacity. You mentioned at the outset that I was president of Network Limerick in 2023, and one of the things we have to do is choose a charity. So historically, someone would have chosen a charity and maybe had them as a keynote speaker throughout the year. But having undertaken this course, I understood that wasn't enough. It's not enough just to, do something piecemeal. You really need to drill down and make sure that you are showing that you're inclusive and that you're representative. So as part of I suppose what I did during that year specifically was I tried to make Down Syndrome Limerick, who are my chosen charity, an integral part of absolutely everything I did. And we ended up with the first Businesswoman of the Year awards, representative from somebody with Down syndrome. And we ended up having members of the organization that had Down syndrome, and that has continued, which I see as kind of my legacy, I suppose, for my year as president. But all too often we think that just because we have a policy or we say we're doing something that it's enough, but it's not. And I think having had the legal basis and the understanding behind this course, it really makes you see that you have to put practical things in place. And it's not enough just to say we're a diverse board and we welcome people of all ethnicities and we welcome people with all accessibility. You actually sometimes have to go out and handhold. As Ethna said, the coaching is important. Sometimes you have to handhold people to come into the fold because they don't necessarily realize that it's welcoming. And just because, as I said, there's a policy there doesn't mean they are, supported enough or confident enough to break down that barrier that you're trying to break on one side, that they can actually move through. So I think that's important as well. So going out and actually helping people to be part of what it is that you're trying to do is vitally important as well. And that was a huge part of the learning.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. Just having that legal knowledge actually is great to, you mightn't necessarily have that coming into the program, and it's great to have that understanding and that background. And as you say, looking for ways that you could adapt that to your own environment and your own work environment as well is absolutely great. And you've done great work there, Karen. Well done. Fair play to you. So Suzanne, just to move on to yourself there, I know you kind of progressed with me onto the diploma then afterwards. So over the 2 years, can you pinpoint any, I suppose, modules that you really enjoyed and got a lot out of as well?
Yeah, so I'd have to agree with both yourself and Karen there that the law was huge. There was so much different focus on the law within here in Ireland, and then looking at human rights law, and then the law and justice module that we had in the autumn semester of the graduate diploma. I really enjoyed that so much. It was so in depth, and it took you on different, I suppose, directions, and it took you back in time and forward in time, and just even where I suppose how law has developed and where different laws have come from and so on. So that I found that really enjoyable. Uh, and I suppose as well in the second semester, I found the intercultural competence module was really enjoyable. It was like something that kind of took you out there, and it was almost like you could have a little bit of fun, and there was great engagement, I think, between our group, you know, and the final assignment, I think, was based around designing a poster and so on, and that was really valuable. It was something different as well, a different type of assignment. So I think, yeah, it was a combination of all the learning from the law and looking at it from different perspectives and so on, and just gaining all that knowledge. And as you say there, Karen, that applying that then, or having the confidence to be able to apply and bring that into your daily work. And I think one thing that I really enjoyed on a couple of the different modules was that we had discussion forums. So for example, maybe on the law or the modules, we might have been given a quote or a reading to do, and you then had to give your comment or give your view on it and maybe comment on someone else's. And I thought that was fantastic because even though we were remote, it was a great opportunity to kind of engage with people and just to get maybe the opinion that they mightn't have been confident enough maybe to say out in class, but in writing it was there and you could read it and you could think about it and you could maybe argue or debate a little bit with each other. And I thought that was really fantastic. And I think as well, you could kind of see people's confidence growing through the semester by being able to be involved in those discussion forums because, well, I know for myself anyway, if I thought at the beginning of when I started the course that I'd be confident enough to debate a legal topic, I don't think I would. But by the end, I felt, oh my gosh, yeah, I can really take this on and I can add to it, and I feel, confident. I think one of the things we learned is that it's about kind of collaborating and coming together rather than any one person being right or having the right the right opinion on something or the right way. So I think it was a great like that mix of people that were on the courses and people coming from different sectors. We all learned so much from each other as well as the course content as well. So I think for me, it was a great growing confidence and opening my eyes to just to other sectors generally and other people's thoughts and perspectives and maybe where and why people have the opinion they have or where they're coming from and so on, and just that great sense of sharing and collaboration.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found I learned a lot actually from the discussion boards. You would be reading other people's posts and they'd put quite a lot of effort into it actually. And you learned an awful lot about stuff that you wouldn't, a perspective you mightn't have taken, they would take. And it was just really interesting to engage in that as well as the theory and the lectures and the academic content itself. But even to see different people's points of view from different sectors and that sort of thing was really valuable actually, so it's a great plus for the course as well. So James and Ethna, just to ask you, I know you're currently engaged in the content, so you haven't, I suppose, covered all the modules, or you're at the end of covering the first year, I suppose, but just in terms of how you found the program and what you've enjoyed most within the program itself. James, do you want to go first, or Ethna? I don't mind. Yeah.
I enjoyed the writing. I enjoyed the developing an argument and seeing it through and writing, and I actually enjoy referencing, which is weird. But I enjoyed the learning a lot about why things are the way they are and why you might think that's normal. It should, it's not really. And the topic, I go back to social exclusion. It opened my eyes to a huge amount. I enjoyed the language module, and I enjoyed Eddie's law module in the first term. Again, writing a legal argument in pretending I was a solicitor in an employment law situation, and I found it very enjoyable. And the human rights module with Dr. Louise McNeil is also really engaging, and I'm looking forward to. Well, I've already started, but I'm looking forward to handing that assignment up too. And that, again, that was you know, so up to date, and you're dealing with problems today. I found, you know, it's very engaging and very worthwhile. I would say, not sure if we had the same class interaction. Probably all we have really is the WhatsApp groups, the discussion forums. I don't think worked so well this year. I would say maybe a live interactive class once a week would probably do the course really some benefit. So that I know we have our clinics on Wednesdays, and it's hard sometimes when you're commuting to get to it. But when I did the MA in History of Family, our class was interactive. It was hybrid, and it was really, really beneficial because again, you get to meet everybody online and you know, hear opinions, and that's something that I would like to engage more with. Over to you, Etzna.
Thanks, James. I guess for me, I'd echo the fact that I'm very much enjoying the different law modules, you know, and we've done 3, I guess we're finishing up on 2. At a very practical level, I found the language and inclusion module extremely useful, right? Because even looking at different case studies and looking at, you know, where it's worked well, where it hasn't worked well, that has been immediately useful to me and what I do on a day-to-day basis, you know. So I thought that was absolutely excellent. I would also say that, you know, at a personal level, the overall program has kind of maybe made me aware of a lot of my own unconscious bias, you know, and when I look at some of the different lectures, say, for example, within equality and practice, you know, where you would have seen conversations around actual bias training, right? And maybe, you know, that's almost like a baseline to launch from, whether you're interviewing or whatever. So it really made me think a lot, and it made me nearly in my day-to-day life, both professional and personal, notice the gaps, because, you know, I'm not sure until I've done this program that I would necessarily have noticed that the standard, you know, the standard is very narrow, right? And what we often end up aspiring to, be it in the workplace or wherever, it is quite narrow, right? And who said that's the standard, and who said it's okay that that's the standard? And it really made me kind of question that. And that's been invaluable, really.
Yeah, and I'd reflect that as well. When I did the program, I found I was nearly questioning everything at one stage, and you know, you actually question a lot, and you nearly have to go through a process of questioning how you think and why you think certain ways, and it's actually really eye-opening. It's great. I would recommend anyone to do it. You know, just from that perspective alone, that you get a lot out of it from your own thinking and challenging yourself and challenging your own values and your own, I suppose, background and that sort of thing. So I totally get that, Etna, as well, from my own personal experience of the program. So
just before we move on, I would echo what, and I know I said it when I spoke earlier, the hybrid element, because I think every topic that we're discussing would merit hugely from interaction, a bit of debate, hearing other people's perspectives. You know, so, you know, I'm conscious this is a relatively new program, so I would really think that would add hugely to it.
Absolutely, and it's something that we could take on board for sure, Etna, as well. So I suppose following on from that, would you have any advice for anyone thinking of applying? This is for the whole group now, in terms of, I suppose, balancing your work life. You all have very busy roles with completing a program. Is there any advice you would give, or any tips or anything like that that you would give to people who are thinking of applying to this program? Karen or Suzanne, do you want to start, or James? I don't mind. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, James, go ahead.
No, I didn't graduate from UL, so I was the first time, so I was quite inhibited, or I felt you know, I wouldn't be able to do this. But I would say just go ahead, apply with your letter and go for it. That's not what I would say, because it will be the best thing you ever did. So
yeah, and I would just say the process was seamless, you know. I applied through the Springboard system, which was great for me, you know, from a cost perspective. And I work for a very small company, and dealing with the postgraduate office was brilliant. And really, just I suppose once you start, again, you know, make it your business to get to know your classmates. They're going to be a huge support, whether it is through a WhatsApp or a discussion board, or even just there's been people I've been able to connect with during and since, both, you know, when I've come up against issues in the workplace, maybe that I want a bit of extra guidance on, or somebody a different thought process. So you do make some great friends and colleagues that you can kind of call on, but also I suppose to be able to look at, you know, I suppose that work-life balance, and being able to set the time aside, whether it's for a clinic, whether it's for, you know, assignments or whatever it is, and knowing, I suppose, from the outset that you're committed, and that you know what's required, and taking note, I suppose, when you're engaging with the modules at the outset, maybe what the particular lecture requires in terms of number of hours or whatever. I found that valuable. And there's huge support, absolutely huge support along the way. That was one of the things that I was absolutely overwhelmed with.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the lecturers on the program are very supportive actually, and are very engaged with the class for sure. And Suzanne, do you have anything to add yourself there?
Yeah, so I'd agree with Karen there about that. When you choose to do it or make the decision, that you have to commit yourself to it. So like there is a body of work to get through the readings, you know, listening back to the lectures, and getting through your assignments and so on. But I think what I found helped me was that with some of the assignments, there's an option to base the assignment around maybe something that's relevant to yourself, or maybe within your own work area or occupational area. So that was very helpful as well. It made it interesting, and maybe you were able to tailor it. And the other thing that I found was helpful for myself was that I picked a specific day of the week when I listened back to the lectures, and I set that. That was kind of my became sort of my what would you say, my habit then, that I knew that every whatever, I think it was on a Monday, actually on Mondays, that was it. I listened back to the lectures, and then I had another, maybe an evening during the week then when I tried to catch up on the readings and so on. So I think if you can get into a routine for it, and the semester flies by. So I think even if you're signing up to the diploma and it is 2 years, I think if you just take it semester by semester, and often you'll find as well that something that you'd learned maybe in one semester, it kind of naturally flows and links on to something in the second semester. And definitely, as you've said there, the support of, you know, your fellow students, and linking in with the lectures as well, if there's something that you're not sure about or you need a little bit of guidance on. I mean, that was there, and that was very, very helpful. So yeah, I'd say grab it and do it without any hesitation, definitely.
Yeah, it's also important to note actually that there's a lot of student support internally here in UL, the Writing Centre, and others as well. You know, if people need help with referencing and that sort of thing, you know, there's great. I accessed it myself, so I can attest to the service. You know, particularly around new referencing systems that you may not have engaged with before, and that sort of thing. So absolutely use the supports on offer as well internally here in UL. And James and Etna, do you have any other insights there that you'd like to add also?
I'd agree with Suzanne.
Yeah.
Thursday was my day, because I weirdly have every Thursday off. So that's when I did most of my work, or most of my reading or watching Panopto. What else can I say? The class and the camaraderie is very important. The lectures are very accessible, and you know, are same day answers to questions, and yeah, I would just say I'd highly recommend it. It's for me, the course is so beneficial on a daily basis. I can see the pluses I'm getting out of it every day.
That's great, and it's great to hear, James. And Etna, do you have anything else to add yourself?
The only thing I'd add, because you end up just repeating what other people have said, I think I'm really glad I did the program. I will be honest, and I as Catherine gave the overview, I am really pleased to see that the second semester in the certificate is now 2 modules, because I have to say I found 3 a massive lift. So it's great to see that that's automatically been, I guess, balanced out. But aside from that, I would say, despite saying that I would like it very much to be hybrid, you know, Brightspace and the systems, without kind of getting into what systems they are, they're easy to navigate. You know, we can find stuff pretty easily, you know, and it does work online. I wouldn't want people to think that it doesn't. It does. I just, you know, I just think it would benefit from a slightly broader engagement. But yeah, I really enjoy it, and I really recommend people to explore it if they have an appetite for the area.
That's great. That's great, Ethna. And then finally, just one final question, and I'll open it to the floor, and whoever would like to answer this, they're welcome to. But just on the most transformative elements of the program, we've touched on it earlier on in the discussion. But is there anything that has really transformed your thinking and has really challenged you and made you think differently about a topic or about an area? I know you've changed your thinking, Karen, possibly with inclusion of different groups and that sort of thing. And I know, Suzanne, you're working in the education sector and that sort of thing. And Ethna and James, your work, particularly James, with IPAS applicants and that sort of thing, would be, you know, you'd be able to incorporate that learning as well. But is there anything very transformative that you picked up from the program that has really challenged what you previously would have thought, I suppose? I don't know if anyone wants to come in there first, Suzanne, maybe, or James, or.
Yeah, I found maybe probably the languages module was something that I know it was early on in the semester. It was the first semester of the certificate, but I found there was a lot to take in there, a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily have thought of before. And once you kind of, it gets into your mindset, it's like, oh my gosh, you're automatically taking it in and thinking about it. And I suppose for me, working in the education sector and then also with the background in HR as well, and as I've been involved with employees with disability and people trying to engage with employment that have a disability, language is hugely important in terms of how maybe job adverts are worded, in terms of kind of the kind of language that's used, maybe even when speaking with people face to face, and even when interviewing people and so on. So that's a module obviously that can go across any, I suppose, any area, but that's something that's really stuck with me, is just always kind of stepping back and thinking about, you know, the words that I'm using, or why am I using a particular word. And I know some of the part of the lessons we're looking at, maybe news articles, and thinking about how people were described, for example, that somebody was a grandmother, or somebody was a, you know, there was kind of an age, or there was different references made, even though there wasn't anything specifically being said, but you could just pick up on the language. And I think for all of us across all disciplines, language is hugely important, and, you know, how we use it, that it can be a weapon. I suppose that's one thing that I, you know, I always try and keep in my mind, that just how powerful a word can be, or not using a word, or using the wrong word, it can have a huge impact on somebody's life, or even whether or not they engage, or they step forward, or they're brave enough to step forward. So that's one thing that kind of stood out for me, that I think is very important, that I've learned anyway.
That's great, Suzanne. And Karen, do you have anything to add? I know you in your work on the Network Ireland piece, but is there anything else in your current work as well that you would
to
incorporate?
echo again, and not wanting to say the same as Suzanne, it was definitely the language and linguistics element. Linguistics specifically, because I suppose it challenged my own personal bias, even down to things like people's accents. And that was something that really came out at the very early stages, was, you know, that we don't even realize how much we judge people. And coincidentally, I actually was at an event recently where Gina London spoke about, and she works in communications. For anyone that's not familiar with her, she would have worked with the Bill Clinton era in the United States in politics. And she talked about having come out of a small town in North America, that her accent was coming against her all the time to try and get work. So she changed how she spoke. And what was actually fantastic at the event is somebody that said they had a very thick Carlo accent, their own description of themselves, said that they had completely embraced their accent and they had done very well in the world of media. And I suppose what I've realized is that historically there were biases around certain things, but now that we educate ourselves more in the whole area of EDI, we're more aware, as you said, Una, and we're challenging ourselves all the time. And as a result, we're questioning, you know, why am I thinking this about this person, or why should that person be treated any less favorably because of whether it's an accent or a disability, or the color of their skin, whatever it is. So I think in that regard, people are becoming more confident. And that's what I've really seen in the last number of years since I've done the course. I can see the confidence. It's not broad spectrum. It's not everybody. There's still a lot of work to be done. But I think certainly people are picking up that they can be more confident and that they will be more accepted, because there are some elements of society they're becoming more tolerant as they become more educated. And that's really what I've learned.
Very good. And James and Etna, I'm just looking at the time there. So if you've anything else to add, that'd be great. But we just want to leave a bit of time for a Q&A there. So if you've anything quickly to add, apologies now for cutting you short.
I just want to say I learned a lot from the social exclusion part. It really opened my eyes to how difficult it can be to move out of their strata. And that's, you know, it was a really eye-opener for me. The research that had been done in America and different places, and that was one thing for me, definitely. You know, the old adage of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you know, it's sometimes just you need a hand.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, we don't realize sometimes our privilege and that sort of thing as well. And Etna, do you have anything else?
I leave it because I can see a few questions in there. So
yeah, no worries, and thanks so much, Etna, as well. So thank you to all our panelists there. Really appreciate your time and excuse me, and your effort here in coming to speak with prospective students here today. It's really appreciated. Thank you so much, particularly on such a sunny day that we don't get a lot of in Ireland at the moment. So thanks a million, guys. So I'll just move on to the Q&A section here now. So Tracy, sorry now, my screen has gone a bit funny there. Tracy Mullins is asking a couple of questions there. How many students are typically on the course? I know for our intake, the first intake, the inaugural intake, there was about 20. That time it was Springboard funded. I think for the diploma, there was 6 in total. And you might give us information on your current cohort, James or Etna, the total on that third cohort at the moment. James, if you wouldn't mind, or
I think it's about the same. There's
12
on the WhatsApp group.
Yeah, very good. So how long are the modules? They're 12-week modules there as well. So they're semester long. So they're over the 12 weeks. And how many assignments per module? I think that really depends on who's delivering the module. I know Eddie can speak to his own program, and I know when we did his module, it was two essays and a quiz. But you might elaborate on that essay. I know for the intercultural competence module, there was a lot of, I suppose, different types of modules, kind of reports and posters, as Suzanne said. The law modules tend to be essay based, so there tends to be a lot of essay assessment within that. But I suppose it depends on each year what way the module leader set the assignments. But roughly for the other human rights module, that was 2 essay assignments, and the language and inclusion was a presentation and an essay as well. And they're usually about 3,000, 2,500 word essays for the most part from memory there as well. And yeah, I think what else is there now? Is it day or evening lectures to be listened back on? So it can vary depending on module. Most people would put up the modules on a Monday evening, but some will put them up a bit later in the week as well. It really depends on the person delivering the module. But for the most part, in the first year, we had modules posted on a Monday or Tuesday, and for the second year, it was slightly different. We actually had live lectures in the second year for one of our modules, and we had posted lectures for the other module as well, the first semester as well. So is it day or evening lectures? On average, how many hours per week needed to engage positively on the course? I suppose being realistic, just to engage in the academic content, the lectures, to watch the lectures, you would need to give, an evening or a day a week to watch the lectures themselves, and then to complete the assignments. That's obviously extra study as well, and it can, I suppose, increase during certain parts of the semester as well. You'll have deadlines to meet where you'll have to submit certain assignments as well. So just be conscious of that, and the reading required for those assignments as well. So
can I just jump in there? Sorry, so I don't know, did you mention there that you needed a day a week for engaging with it? But that would be a lot. We wouldn't be expecting somebody to give over an entire day.
Well, I mean, I suppose an
You're a
evening or
diligent student.
an evening, I suppose. Sorry, I should clarify that, an evening. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I
an
mean,
evening a
so
week, I suppose.
yeah, that
Yeah.
definitely no. So we wouldn't be expecting that. So a lecture could be anything. I mean, and you guys will know better because it depends on the lecturer, but I mean, there would never be more than an hour, I wouldn't think. The video that you'd be
Yeah, sorry,
that you'd be
I should clarify. It should be I suppose a day in my mind would be that day, the evening. So yeah.
the evening, yeah. So just let's say you have a lecture that could be for, I don't know, half an hour to an hour. An hour would be a long one, typically. And then you have, you know, whatever readings you want to do it. How long is a piece of string? You can spend as long as you want doing it. But you know, a couple of hours in the week would be what we would be expecting people to do. So it might be, you know, one evening from, you know, I don't know, 7 to 10 or something like that, and you can watch your lecture, do your reading, contribute, whatever. If you have to do a discussion board, if you have to give an opinion on something, that would be what we'd be expecting. That's it.
Okay, no
I
worries.
think
Thanks.
the key bit, if I can just jump in as well, I think the key bit to consider when all of this, because when I was doing my own undergraduate studies, I was an evening student as well. The key bit with this is that you can, for the most part, you can set the time yourself. You can set it around your own schedule, because when Una was saying there about posted lectures, they're pre-recorded lectures that are put online, and you can access them in your own time, which makes it a little bit easier to organize your schedule. I know there are some live classes, and I find personally what I try to do is I try to organize with the group what would be a suitable time, what would be a suitable evening, and try to make sure that you don't clash with anybody else and things like that. But for the greater part of the program, it is about setting it around your own schedule. Now, the time per week is, like Catherine says, it's a bit of the length of a piece of string that some people put in quite a lot of time into it. The minimum requirement is to listen to all the lectures and to do whatever the basic instruction is, and then you build on that yourself to your own level of what you have time to do, what you have the opportunity to do. But it really is about the flexibility is probably the key bit, just to get that across.
So I'm just looking to see if there are any other questions there.
Oh, actually, sorry, I see one there that I probably should answer. On the entry requirements piece, somebody mentioned there that they do need to have a humanities or law-based degree, and the presumption would be that you don't have a degree that would be have a legal background in it. So I mean, nobody would be expected to know anything about the law, and that's why I was trying to emphasize the fact that when you start taking up the module, you have to, like in the first semester, you're given kind of a little crash course on the legal system, and how at a basic level how it works, because there would be no expectation of that. So as the kind of new course director for it, I personally don't think anybody would need, I wouldn't be looking for somebody to have a humanities background or to have a legal background. That wouldn't be very inclusive. And the whole point is, you know, with a module like this, that it's actually bringing everyone maybe on a journey. So personally, I wouldn't have any requirement like that, and certainly not in any regulations that one would have to. What would be helpful is in the personal statement, even if you had a degree, for example, in engineering or something, that you just explain maybe a little bit about your exposure, I suppose, to anything that will be relevant to this kind of a program. That's all I would be looking for. The fact that you have a degree, a level 8 degree, it doesn't matter necessarily what it's in.
So I think I think we might have answered that question a bit there from Neve there, one of our colleagues in AHSS. Can I ask roughly how many recommended hours study for each module? So we've kind of covered that really with the requirement per week there as well. Hope that's answered anyway. Yeah, you've answered my question, just see there underneath. I don't think there's anything else there at the moment, and we are at time. So if anyone has any burning questions, they can obviously come to me on the application side and on the academic content side. They can obviously contact Catherine there as course director, and I put their details in an email I'll send to everyone there after this call. So I think that's everything really, unless anyone has any other questions or anything to add there to wrap up.
Can I just say thanks a million for for the explanations from everybody. They've been really, really helpful. Very, very helpful. Thanks a million.
No worries, Niamh, and nice to hear from you there. One of our UL colleagues there as well. So that's it really, and I just want to say a big thank you to our panelists there. Thank you so much for coming to speak with us and share your insights there on the call today. It's really appreciated, and I know you're giving up your time to be here with us today, so we really do appreciate that. As I said, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to take them offline and have a call with you or anything like that. And I'll send my details via email there to all registrants for this webinar also. I don't know if you want to add anything, Catherine, just to wrap up there on your side.
No, I suppose I just want to say thanks to everybody for giving their time today to talk about it. I learned about it as much as anything else. And if anyone has any questions or anything afterwards, they can let me know.
Great. Thanks, everyone. I think we'll leave it there. So, and thank you very much for taking the time to attend as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thanks.